Just a little before we really get started, just kind of give you an idea of who we are.
Yeah.
Truth and Love Radio Network, our target audience is that younger generation, that Gen Z.
Awesome.
And it was on purpose that we geared what we're doing between the music, the programs we have. We deal with real world issues from a biblical worldview, something that this generation is begging for.
Sure.
There are groups out there that have done research. I don't know if you're familiar with Barna Research.
Yeah.
Barna has done a massive 3-volume study on Gen Z.
Wow.
And in fact, we were just with them about a week ago. They released that 3rd volume on dealing with it. And it was amazing what they have discovered as this generation is sitting there going, they're convinced that everybody's lying to them. They see social media, they say it's all fake.
It's pretty much, everybody has been for you. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, but even the church world.
Yes.
Has been fake and covered up stuff, and you scratch my back. I mean, it's all politics.
It is. And
you can't trust politics.
And they're seeing it.
Yeah.
Because again, they have devices that can quickly, you're telling me this? I'll find out.
Yep.
They can see
Fact check right away.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And so when they see that, their immediate response is everybody's lying to us. But all of them, Barna, in fact, even some secular studies on this Gen Z, they came to the same conclusion. But then their follow-up was, so what do you see? I mean, what's the solution? What do you think is it? And 85 to 90%, both secular and religious, Barna, all those things came back. They've all said, if somebody would tell us the truth, we'll listen.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, we just sit there going, we need to do that.
Hence Truth and
Love Radio Network. And so
awesome.
That is our target audience.
Cool.
That's what we're going after.
Well, it's needed. I mean, my generation we're getting older, and
yes, we are.
In 20, 30 years, who's going to be here to keep this alive if we don't bring the young people in?
Absolutely.
And let them know that you can trust some people,
Yeah, there's some.
And most of all, you can trust God. If you can't trust anyone else, you can trust God.
Trust the Lord.
Because everyone else will let you. I'll let you down. You'll let them down. I mean,
we
we're all,
will.
not everyone's human, but if we can get them to believe that, and not a fake sense of, just how it looks. Oh, I'm godly.
Yes.
But if you let them know, man, everybody's real. Everybody struggles with the same things. No matter, I don't care.
Yeah.
Charles Stanley, Billy Graham, everybody struggles with the same things. And it's that we walk around acting like we don't struggle with anything is why they don't believe, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we let them know God is real, I'm not perfect, but God's real, and this is what he's done in my life, and he's continually doing something, then that can be more believable to them, I guess,
Absolutely. So that's why we love interviewing, because we tell people, they're listening to your music, but what's for them to think, okay, this is just another artist, just like the secular world.
Yeah.
So we want them to know who you are.
Okay.
And so what I'd like for you to do is just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, tell a little bit about you,
Okay.
how you got
Do
to
I
where
need to
you
be
are.
up closer
No, you're
to-
good.
okay,
This
good.
thing,
Perfect.
picks up everything.
Good.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
your life, what got you to where you are now.
Okay. So,
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Well, I started out, my father was an evangelist, and we was raised doing tent revivals. My dad was a tent revival
yes.
preacher. And so I'm the youngest of my siblings. We did all the music in Dad's revivals. Mom and Dad could sing, but they didn't sing no harmony. They played no instruments, so they would have to rely on other people showing up to play and lead the worship. And they prayed that their children would become musical. And one by one, we learned and were able to do. We were homeschooled, traveled in a camper, and so. But I loved quartet singing, and my dream was to be with Gold City. That was my all-time. I wanted to be Brian Free so bad when I was growing up. And so I knew I'm from Dayton, Ohio originally, and we moved when I was 12 to West Virginia, and but I swore to myself when I was 18 I was going to move down south because that's where the quartets were.
Gotta come to the south. That's it.
So I moved at 18 to North Carolina, and then at 19 I started singing full time with my first group, the Anchormen. Sang with them for that was my first group for 8-9 years, and then in 2004 I got the call to go with Gold City, and so I moved to Alabama.
God gives you the desires of your heart.
I was taught that, and I used to pray, and I would sing along with. I mean, that was my practice warm-ups was Gold City and singing Brian's part, And so I was taught that he would, and I tried to, to seek after that. And so that was great, and that was a dream come true. And when I spent several years there and then left and went solo, and spent 10 years doing solo work, and I toured with Michael English for a couple of years, and opened up with him, and did some cool things. I was featured on an Alan Jackson gospel album, The Precious Memories Volume 2, with the Stamps Quartet. How that came about, they didn't have a tenor singer at the time, and Ed Enoch called me and said, Alan wants the Stamps on his new album, and would you sing tenor on it? And I was like, yeah. So it was cool. And my wife bought me the record, the double record of Volume 1 and 2. And inside it's got the Stamps featuring Steve Ladd, Ed Enoch, so I'm like, that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
For a kid that just grew up doing tent revivals, and dreaming of doing something like this. And then in 2018, I think it was, I joined the Old Paths. So how they had some success, had 3 or 4 number ones, and came off the road in 2013. And some family, the lead singer's daughter got real sick, had a kidney transplant. Anyway, so they wanted to come back, but on a limited schedule. And so I was doing solo, and so we just were doing albums for the first couple of years, and I was doing my thing, but doing the group thing on the side. And then it turned into Come Sunday Morning went number 1, then Broken People went number 2, and so it just we went back full time. And so I was miserable, not with them, but just being on the road that much, because it's all I've ever done. And that was one of the reasons I left Gold City, was 250 plus days on the year. And at the time, my son was 5 or 6 years old. And so, I just had been on the road my whole life. And so I left in October of last year, and I'm back out on my own. And God's blessed to open doors, and my wife travels with me everywhere I go. And so I'm home a lot more. I still want to sing, still want to travel, just not close to 300 days a year.
Where am I? What town am I in?
And so now it's at I still do about 125 dates a year, which is fine, but if I make my own schedule. So if my son's in college now in Nashville, and so if my daughter or son, we have something I can just not schedule something that week. Whereas with the group, you just got to go.
It's a group,
it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
So I left in October of last year, so it's been a year almost. And God's opened doors, preached the word. I re-recorded a song that I was known for with Gold City that recorded 18 years ago. And so as my first single back as a soloist, I re-recorded that and done it. And so I've got another song, Sometimes the Devil Tells the Truth. Is my song that's out right now. It's streaming. It's not a radio single, but it's a streaming single. And I got that idea from something my dad would say in his revivals. He said, the devil won't always lie to you. He'll tell you you're not holy. Well, you're not holy enough.
You're not. Yeah.
He'll tell you you're not good enough. Well, you're not good. We'll never be righteous enough. And he said, but he's leaving out some parts of the story. And so I wrote down that idea and took Kenneth Turner West and Jason Cox, and we wrote that song. And Dad didn't get he passed away 5 months ago. And so he didn't get to hear the finished product. And so, but I think he'd be proud.
I think so.
I think he'd be proud.
It's one of those opinion things, but I think he might be hearing it. So I think that's good.
I hope so. Yeah.
That's great. Well, and I appreciate that heritage. You're growing up in it and seeing, Lord, this is what I'd like to do. And
had no other goal in life.
Yeah. God says, oh, fine. Why wouldn't I let you do this?
Yeah.
And that is amazing.
So, and I'm thankful it worked out, because I didn't go to college. I mean, I did not do, my only focus was on singing and getting with groups. And it's God's blessed.
God's done a work, and I appreciate that. So obviously the different groups and the different solos and back and forth. And so as you think now back and, doing solo, the music that you kind of have to pick for the concerts and or albums, what is your thinking around? What are you looking for? What is it that kind of helps you? Hey, I think this is the message we want to portray.
So when I left Gold City in 2009, I sang primarily in the church world for 10 years. And so I realized real fast, because I love Southern gospel music, that was my heritage, but I also like worship, and I like some contemporary, and I like the progressive Southern gospel, so kind of like what Brian Free and some of the sound. And I think that will stay relevant in the modern church world nowadays, because it's either they have a traditional service and a contemporary, or they only have a contemporary and throw a hymn in every once in a while. So, and I realized to stay relevant and to stay current in the church world, you've got to do a blend of music. So most of my songs that I record have that edgier sound to it. But I'll throw in Is He Worthy by Chris Tomlin, or Everlasting God, something that people, goodness of God, because it brings, but then I'll throw in I'll Fly Away, or I'll throw in Preach the Word, or Come Sunday Morning, something that I did, in the set, because I feel like if you can do something for everyone, then it'll be well received, instead of if you just, and that's like churches. There's a war in the church world. What kind of music are we going to do, old or new? And it's not how many souls are we seeing saved, or how many families are we reaching in our community. It's, well, we only do this kind of music, or we shouldn't do this. And I think we shouldn't forsake one for the other. You shouldn't forsake the older songs, the hymns, just to do new, but you shouldn't forsake the new just to do hymns. I think I'll Fly Away was a brand new song at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
they all
absolutely
were,
That's why I've always been sitting there going, I think as the styles may change some, the message has always been the same.
Yeah.
And so to be able to get that message across has been very, very
and that's
powerful.
the key, I think. There are some Southern gospel songs that don't have a good, this is just fluff, little, but there's nothing wrong with that. And there are some contemporary worship that's like, okay, I don't get nothing. But as long as the message is clear, and that's the key, I think, if we can find songs that are relevant to every age, but has a great message, a clear message about the Father and the Son and what He did for us and the blood of Calvary. I think that's where we've gone wrong. Is we've tried to pick songs that just you can't tell whether it's you're singing to your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or you're singing to God, and as long that's the thing. I think that's what some of the older crowd in my generation has a problem with. Oh, well, it's not, but there are great songs, goodness of God,
Yeah.
all my life you have been faithful. As long as it's got a clear message, it doesn't matter to me whether it's got a drum loop in it or or a heavier guitar. It's all working for the same goal.
Absolutely.